Hello, everybody, and welcome into the Sports Mandate. I'm John Hand.
I'm TJ Horgan.
And alongside to my left here, we have a new member of the Sports Mandate, America's favorite cookie, Jack Bloom. Jack, thanks for joining us.
Good to be here. Thanks, guys.
Hey, it's going to be a lot of fun.
Thank you, Jack.
Yeah, new panelist, guest host on the show.
Absolutely.
Offer some good insight into the world of sports.
We'll mention that he is from Reading, too. So
right. That
if a fight breaks
detail.
out, it's 2-on-1. I have Phil in the back, so that makes it even.
Well, hopefully that does happen. That'd boost our ratings a little bit.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, let's start off with the high schools. Reading, Burlington. TJ, catch us up on what's going on in Burlington.
So girls basketball is 1-2. Boys basketball is 3-2. The girls team's still a very young team. Last year they only had one senior. This year they have 3 now. But I think my favorite thing about the girls basketball team is just the way they spread it around the court. Obviously, I mean, they have Michaela Mazur, who is 3 sports varsity, consistently a Middlesex League All-Star, but they get the ball to other players as well. And I think that really says a lot as to the coaching, Pam Capola, who's one of the most dedicated coaches I've seen on the basketball court. For boys basketball, they're 3-2, as I mentioned. They just had a big win against Cardinals Spellman, not in the division, obviously, private school, but they won on a buzzer beater by Mike DeMartinez, the sophomore. Another very young team. They only have 1 senior on the starting 5, so it's only 3 on the entire team. So it's interesting to see the dynamic. They went from having a really consistent big 3 with Mickey Lyons, Shane Farley, and Christian Mornowick, who are all playing college basketball now, to having sort of like more of an ensemble team, but they're still getting the job done above 500, 3-2.
And it sounds like the future's bright.
Right, exactly. Girls hockey is 2-1 this year. They are playing pretty well. I saw their game against Woburn. Goalie Cassidy Smith, Middlesex League All-Star Junior. She's still playing extremely well. Only 7 goals allowed, I believe. I think one of those games was definitely where they had a lot of the goals because she, against Woburn, shut out Woburn. Kelly Brown, though, is the freshman. She was the best player in the Middlesex League last year when she played in 8th grade. And she is just, I don't even know if dangling is an appropriate word because there is just so much talent there. And she is scoring. She scored the 4 goals against Woburn. It's just an impressive team. Guys, catch me up on Reading. What's going on with Reading?
Jack, take us through boys and girls basketball.
All right, so with boys basketball, yesterday they won the Saugus Invitational Tournament in OT. Mike Algieri, senior captain, led the team with 38 points.
Wow.
Big game out of him, yeah. He's a commit to Wheaton College. And they have struggled in the league a bit, a couple big losses early on, but they have some new faces, new starters, so I think it's just going to take some time to gel and things should start moving in the right direction. With girls basketball, yesterday they lost to Beverly in the Christmas Invitational Tournament. It was 53-25, so kind of a tough loss. Again, they have some new faces, new people, so it's going to take some time to gel, but I think there's a good team atmosphere there. There's no like one standout like back when Olivia Healy was on the team. You know, they pass it around, they get going, so hopefully they'll be on the right track.
Great.
Well, on the hockey side of things in Reading, things are looking pretty good for the girls hockey team right now. They're undefeated so far in the season, a 4-0. They have a big game on Thursday against Arlington Catholic, so when this airs, we'll know the result of that. But win or loss, this is still one of the better teams in the state of Massachusetts right now. They have a complete team, offense, defense. The core of the team last year, which was once again another good team, is back this year, and they're performing at the peak level.
Have the girls played Burlington yet?
They have. They beat them.
They
first
did?
game of the season.
All right, cool.
So far this season, they've averaged 5 goals a game.
Wow.
And they've only given up 2 goals, and that was opening night against Burlington.
That's impressive.
So they're doing pretty well. And on Allie O'Leary is just, unbelievable player. Going to probably be the Middlesex League MVP. Got a hat trick in her first 2 games.
Wow.
Had multi-score games for her first 3 games.
Yeah.
But the thing is with this team is they're not completely relying on Allie. They're getting scoring from other dimensions of their game, like their defense and the other 2 lines they're producing. They have 3 lines that can skate, 3 lines that can compete.
Yeah.
This team is going to go deep in the tournament. This team should be playing for a state championship. Last year I predicted them to be state champions, and they lost in the first round. So I'm not going to predict anything this year.
All right.
But I like their chances.
Yeah.
Moving on to the boys' side of things, they haven't won a game yet.
Okay.
They're 0-2-3.
Yep.
They do have 2 wins in the Bauer Winter Classic Showcase, but those wins don't count to the total overall record.
Were there graduating seniors? Is that why?
They lost 2 big players. They lost Mike Thompson. Well, they lost several big players, but most notably Mike Thompson and Jake Barbera, who are two big offensive threats.
Yep.
Mike Thompson especially. He was an elite scorer who could do everything. He had a missile of a shot. He would change the game. When you needed a goal, you could count on him to either get it or create it.
Right.
And now he's gone, and they don't have that guy they can kind of rely on.
Yeah.
And to make matters worse, one of their top offensive players, senior captain Sean Verrier, is now out from the majority of the season with a broken collarbone. Such a sad story. Skating off the ice, defenseless. Xavier brothers, they were playing Xavier brothers. Their captain, Tim Sweeney, just takes a cheap shot on him as he's skating off the ice. Verrier falls down, and it's a broken collarbone. Just horrible. Sweeney should be suspended. He's not. He should be, but it's sad. But once these guys start figuring things out, they sometimes will try to do too much. They've had some untimely penalties. Last night in their game against Andover, they had 6 power play opportunities.
Yeah.
Only 2 of those power play opportunities did they play the full minute and a half without getting a penalty themselves.
Wow.
So they were playing a lot of 4-on-4 hockey when they should have been playing 5-on-4 hockey. So if they can figure that out, play with urgency for 3 periods, this team does not quit. This team has a desire to win.
Yeah.
So once they figure things out, they should be back in the tournament, I think.
With Burlington boys hockey, they're 2-1. They just beat Barnstable, and they also have beaten Reading. They lost against Woburn. But the Burlington hockey, I mean, it's interesting because last year they had a pretty solid team all around. This year they've improved on offense. They have their first 3 lines. They can score goals, and they have scored goals. But their defense and their back half is what's, I don't want to say missing, but it's certainly been lacking these first 3 games. I mean, we can't complain about too much. It's 2-1. They have a great team, but I think their offense is what they're going to focus on because it is so high powered. I mean, you have guys on each line who can make something happen. Last year, Anthony Nikolopoulos led the Middlesex League in goals scored. This year, I'm not quite sure if he has a goal, but I know that there's such a bunch of other guys around him who can make things happen. The lines work extremely well together. Freshman defenseman Michael Hayes is actually playing really well. The goalie Nick Howard played really well against Barnstable and Woburn. I mean, overall, the team is just gelling really well.
And like you said, all 3 lines, when they played Reading, we saw Robbie Ryan off the, I think,
Right,
second or
hat-trick,
third line with a hat trick. So, yeah, you're right, all 3 lines. And that's a big advantage to have as going forward.
Definitely.
Well, moving from the high school circuit of things to the pro circuit of things.
Yeah.
The NFL playoffs are now upon us, arguably the best playoffs in all of sports. So we're going to go round by round here, game by game, give you your predictions. Jack texted me earlier in the day and said every one of his predictions is going to be right. So we'll see what he has to say.
Okay.
Let's start off with the first game. I think arguably the best game in the with the divisional games. Ravens at the Steelers.
Okay.
Jack, who do you got?
All right, well, so Le'Veon Bell went down last week with an injury to his knee. Turns out there's no ligament damage, which is good, but he does have a hyperextended knee, so you figure even if he plays, he's not going to be nearly 100%, so that's a big blow. He's a big part of that offense.
Definitely.
But the Ravens do have a weak secondary, and Antonio Brown, as we saw, led the league in receptions, 129 receptions, so, I mean, he's definitely a threat. So I think that between the Steelers' superior defense and their offensive weapons, I think they pull it out against the Ravens.
Yeah, I'm going with the Steelers as well. I really think the offense is something's going to click there, and it has clicked. I think that their offense is just too high-powered for Baltimore to stop. But I do think it will be close. It's possible that it's low-scoring. Baltimore has the 2nd most sacks in all of the NFL.
Yeah, I'm going with the Steelers as well. When they played earlier in the season on November 2nd, like you mentioned, Antonio Brown had 11 receptions for 144 yards and a touchdown. So even if Le'Veon Bell isn't playing at his best, they have too many other weapons there for Ben Roethlisberger to use and put up points on the board. Next game in the AFC divisional, Bengals at Colts. TJ, I'll start with you. Who do you got?
I have Indianapolis winning, and I think this is going to be a very close one. I think it's going to be low scoring. Vontae Davis versus AJ Green is going to be the key. The cornerback for the Colts against AJ Green, obviously the big wide receiver for the Bengals. I think Cincinnati, if they can run successfully, it's going to be a closer game. But because running takes up so much clock time, I think it's going to be a very low scoring game in Indianapolis. But I think the Colts edge it out by a touchdown.
Well, I agree. I believe the Colts will win, but I think that I don't trust Andy Dalton at all in any big game ever. Time and time again, he just throws interceptions, poor mistimed throws, and A.J. Green is uncertain right now for the game, so if he's out, I think it's definitely a blowout, but either way, I think the Colts win by at least 10. I don't trust the Bengals at all.
Yeah, I think, Jack, you just hit the nail on the head. Andy Dalton is just, he poops his pants in playoff games. He has the 25th best passer rating in the NFL right now in the regular season, so I don't see him putting it up in the playoffs. The Colts, Andrew Luck has weapons. Reggie Wayne, T.Y. Hilton's had a fantastic year.
Yep.
I like the Colts in this one as well.
Yeah, I wish there was a term for a quarterback who just progresses totally opposite of what you want. Like, he is the exact opposite of what you want in a quarterback. Rookie year is okay and just keeps getting worse.
I don't know why you'd give him that contract. That's beyond me, but I guess the people in Cincinnati know what they're doing. Switching over to the NFC now, Lions at the Cowboys. Cowboys, they're in the playoffs. They have a tendency to, I guess we'll just keep going with this theme, poop your pants in the playoffs.
Okay.
But TJ, I'll start with you.
All right.
Who do you guys as winner in this one?
I have Detroit. I was trying to pick some upsets. I think this is going to be a great game. Obviously, Dallas has the best running back right now in the NFL with DeMarco Murray, but Detroit has the best run defense, allowing 69 yards per game, and Ndamukong Suh is leading defensive tackles in quarterback hits. So the Dallas offensive line has played well. The Dallas running game has played well. I think Detroit is going to show up and they're going to overpower. It's going to be two very good matchups.
It should be of note, though, Suh is out for that game. He was suspended for that, stepping on Aaron Rodgers. So
He was,
yes.
yeah.
That was late last night, yeah.
Okay, all right.
It's a technical difficulties,
making sure in the booth. But either way, the Detroit Lions defense is going to perform in this.
Jack, who do you got?
I disagree. I'm not personally a fan of the Cowboys, but I do think that with DeMarco Murray in and Suh out, I think that DeMarco Murray will still put up 100 yards. And even if he doesn't, they have Des Bryant, who has 16 touchdowns now. I mean, putting up unbelievable numbers. I believe, like anybody, that Romo could just poop his pants any time, but I mean, I think they're going to win this one.
I mean,
I don't know how
when you're Tony Romo and you go in there, there has to be thoughts of that Seahawks game where he misses the extra point there. That's got to be going through your head, right? But I think he figures it out here. I do pick Dallas in this one. Like the Suh out, DeMarco Murray running free is going to be huge. And Dallas does have a pretty solid defense. They don't try to do too much. They keep it simple, and I like that. Cool. Cardinals and Panthers, possibly the worst playoff game of all time. NFC South, I'm sorry, your Falcons, but it's just an atrocious division. Who do you got in this one, Jack?
So I pick the Cardinals. It's not really to show like which team is best, I don't believe. I think they're both pretty terrible. But I do think that Bruce Arians is top 3 coaches in the league, no questions asked. I think he's unbelievable. Everywhere he goes, he filled in for Indianapolis, and they were unbelievable. He went to the Cardinals. Nobody expected much, and then with Carson Palmer in, they were unbelievable. I do think that they're going to have some troubles, though, with Carson Palmer out, but I do pick the Cardinals.
Get the NFC South out. It's just bad memories. I don't even want to look at. Just go. Get out of the NFL right now. Like go to the draft. That's where you belong. The NFC South is a draft division. They belong to talk about the draft and do their draft, and then just nothing else. I'm a Falcons fan, but it's disgusting. Cardinals.
Okay, Cardinals. I'm actually going Panthers here. The Cardinals are limping into this game. They lost, I think, 4 of their 5 losses came in November and December, and right now looks like they might be on their 3rd string quarterback. Drew Stanton might not even get the start. So Ryan Liddell gets there, and then their rush offense is just atrocious. So there's no way they're going to put up points. If Cam Newton can put up a couple touchdowns against, I know they have a good defense, but if they can put up a couple touchdowns, the Panthers will edge this one out.
Yeah, Ryan Lindley since 2010 has the worst QB rating out of qualified quarterbacks.
So going to the divisional games, Jack, what's your first divisional game pick?
Divisional game pick is Patriots-Colts is who I have. I'm picking the Pats. I think they finally have a healthy team besides Mayo being out. Their defense with Jamie Collins and Chandler Jones in, they're going to be fantastic. And I just don't think the Colts have the defense to keep up with our offense. I think they do have many weapons, but I think that we'll be able to shut them down, get to Luck, and I don't think they can keep up with us.
TJ?
I mean, New England, Indianapolis I have as well. The Patriots beat them 42-20 in Indianapolis.
You're right.
What's to say they can't do that same thing in New England?
Yeah, how do you not pick the Patriots here? I'm going Patriots as well. And Andrew Luck, last time he came in New England in January, he threw 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
So if history repeats itself at all, Patriots will win this game. They're just too good right now. For my divisional game, the next one, I think we all pick Steelers, correct?
Yeah.
So Steelers, Broncos, TJ, who do you pick in this one?
I have the Broncos. I think it'll be closer than whatever's happening in New England. But I think the Steelers are too inconsistent to beat the Broncos here. I think with the week off, Denver gets a chance to figure it out whether they want to run or pass, and they've proven they can do both things very capably, and if that's a word. And I think Peyton Manning is going to get a week to rest whatever injury it is he's hiding from us. So I pick Denver.
Yeah, I do think that definitely a week off for Manning is going to help the Broncos, but I do pick the Colts. I think that if the Steelers move, my bad, sorry, I picked the Steelers. I do think that Le'Veon Bell gets a week, he can get back to full strength. I think I looked it up. I mean, Manning in the month of December threw for 3 touchdowns and 6 interceptions. He's been playing horribly. But if he does have that injury, it will be interesting to see if he can get back to full strength.
I picked the Steelers here as well. Even when Manning is right, he doesn't show up in the playoffs. He's a quarterback where he's
aside from the Super Bowl win.
One Super Bowl win, like what happened last year, the year before. He doesn't do well in the playoffs. He's a guy where he's a book smart guy. He's obviously a good quarterback. He's put up the numbers. But if a defense changes anything on him, if one little thing goes wrong, he doesn't know how to react. He's not just a natural winner like Tom Brady, who just no matter what you throw at him, he's going to win this game. He's going to figure it out. So I'm picking the Steelers here as well. Aqib Talib has a way of getting hurt in big games too. We saw that a lot in New England. So I think a lot of things were going to go wrong for the Broncos. I see the Steelers.
See, I think you can say that whole spiel about Manning not being a winner, not knowing how to win, but I just don't think that happens against Pittsburgh. Maybe we see it against New England, but against Pittsburgh, I just don't think that happens.
Ben Roethlisberger is a quarterback who has a few Super Bowl rings. He's been in plenty of big games. I think he'll be up for this game. I think he'll get the rest of his teammates up for this game. I really like the Steelers in this one.
We'll see.
All right, moving over to the NFC now. Let's start with the Seahawks with the lower seed. TJ, who do you got in this one?
I have Seahawks in Arizona. I mean, I wanted to pick the upset, but there's just no way anyone can logically say that the Seahawks are going to lose to Arizona with Ryan Lindley or even Drew Stanton or even whoever else they were going to have at quarterback. Seahawks.
Yeah, this is why I really hated the first round game with the Panthers and the Cardinals, because I think this is basically a second bye for the Seahawks. They're playing unbelievably well. They've won 9 out of their last 10 games, and any QB that the Cardinals put in, I think that the Seahawks D is just going to eat them alive. I don't think there's any way the Cardinals come out of there.
Yeah, I had the Panthers here, but it really doesn't matter. You might as well pen in the Seahawks in the NFC Championship game. Their best defense.
Let's Sharpie them in.
Sharpie them in.
Yeah.
You tattoo them in. Whatever you need to do. I mean, best defense in the league. There's just no way they're not in the NFC Championship. All right. Packers, and I had the Cowboys, but Jack, who'd you have?
I had the Cowboys as well, actually. So, like I said, for some teams, home field advantage is a big advantage. Some teams doesn't matter as much. The Packers at Lambeau Field are unbelievable. All of their losses came away from home this year. They're basically unstoppable at Lambeau, and I don't trust Tony Romo to go 2 games into the playoffs. I think they made the playoffs, and I think that's good for them, but I don't think they beat the Packers at Lambeau.
Yeah, I have Packers-Lions in this one, though. I think the Packers are going to take it. I mean, Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL right now. There's really no stopping him, especially from Detroit's side of that. I think it has potential to be close. Obviously, Detroit's defense is really good, but I mean, the best quarterback in the NFL leading arguably the best offense in the NFL. I'm taking the Packers.
Yeah, I had the Cowboys and Packers. Frozen tundra is hard to play, and it's going to be cold. It's going to be loud. Romo's going to choke. I see the Packers in this one going to the NFC Championship. All right, AFC Championship. TJ, who'd you have?
I have New England over Denver in this. I think we saw last year. I mean, we've seen before. We've seen the Patriots beat the Broncos. We saw this year. I think that, especially with that home field advantage too, the Patriots are going to pull it out.
So I had New England versus the Steelers. I think both teams are capable of putting up humongous numbers for scores, but I think that the Patriots' consistency and their defense will be able to shut down the Steelers enough that we can move right on. And honestly, if it gets to Patriots-Steelers, I don't think it'll be too much of a challenge for the Patriots. I obviously think the Steelers are a good team, but I think the Patriots are just much better.
Yeah, I had Steelers-Patriots as well. It's going to be in Gillette, and the Patriots don't lose in Gillette unless it's Week 17 and they're not trying against the Bills. And with the Steelers, who knows what the health of Le'Veon Bell will be at this point in the season. I mean, we're now 2 weeks removed. We would be 2 weeks removed from his knee injury, so their real target on the field is going to be Antonio Brown, and Revis can just take him away. I mean, that's the advantage.
I don't know about
that,
but
I mean, he's arguably the best cornerback in the league, and he can just take away your top receiver. I mean, look what he did with the exception of one play against the Packers, Calvin Johnson, AJ Green. I mean, all those guys.
He has done that. I think that'll be a good matchup, though, if that ends up happening.
I like the Patriots. Tom Brady, AFC Championship home. You can't go wrong. So NFC Championship, TJ?
I have Green Bay beating Seattle, and I have the Patriots and the Packers in the Super Bowl. I think the Packers will win that.
You have the Packers winning the Super Bowl?
Yep, I have the Packers winning the Super Bowl. So that's full disclosure. Those are my picks.
All right. So I actually have the Packers too. The Packers already lost the Seahawks at CenturyLink, and I think when you put 2 good teams together, it's very hard to beat a good team twice. I understand that the Seahawks, just like the Packers, are nearly unbeatable at home, But I do think that Aaron Rodgers, like you said, best quarterback in the league, undoubtedly. I think he steps up and leads them to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I have the Packers Seahawks too, but I think it's going to be a really close game. When it comes to championship games, it's going to come down to quarterback versus defense, and Aaron Rodgers is a better quarterback than Russell Wilson. I know Seattle's defense is unbelievable, but look what happened when the Patriots and Packers went head-to-head. It's just one play that right before halftime, that pass to Jordy Nelson made all the difference. That's all that needs to happen in this game. If Rodgers can make one play, beat Sherman here, beat Bobby Wagner here, the Packers will win that game. Jack, who's your Super Bowl pick? We know TJ's going with the Packers.
TJ's going with the Packers. I am actually going with the Patriots.
Attaboy.
I may sound like a homer, and I understand that, but I think plain and simple, Patriots are the best team in the league. They're best all around. They have, like I said, Chandler Jones and Jamie Collins, great pass rush, Vince Wilfork anchoring that defense. They have Browner, who may get into penalties, but I love a physical guy on the defense. You have Revis, Brady leading them to another Super Bowl. I think it's the right pick.
It's a dream team. What more could you want? You got a healthy Gronk. You got one of the best defenses in the league. I'm going Patriots here as well. This team's going to want revenge on the Packers. They are a team that when you give them a little bit of motivation, all they need is a tiny bit, and they just go off. And Tom Brady's going to be desperate for that Super Bowl. People say he can't win post-Spygate. This is his opportunity to prove that he can, and I see the Patriots as your Super Bowl champions.
We're going to move on now. Do still stick with the football theme, but not the real football. Well, kind of the real football. Fantasy football. Everybody's favorite football, or at least my favorite football. So we'll go with some different picks. We'll give out some awards. I know we each have teams. Full disclosure, how'd your teams do this year?
I lost in the second round of the playoffs. Yoav, you beat me.
Okay.
It's still trying to get over that, but what are you going to do?
I had 3 teams. One of them I came in 10 out of 10. 2 of them I won the league.
All right, I had 2 teams. One I missed the playoffs, and the other I lost to my brother in the second round, so that was pretty devastating.
Okay, all right. So we'll go with the Fantasy Rookie of the Year. John, who do you have for your Fantasy Rookie of the Year?
I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr. I know he kind of burst onto the national scene when he made that unbelievable catch at MetLife Stadium, but after Week 7, he just went off. He had 18.5 points a game after that, and pre that he was 0-0-0. He had like 2 before Week 6 was like his high, was the most points he had gotten. So, but after that he was just consistent. He finished the year with 148 points or something like that. So he was an unbelievable wide receiver. If you had picked him up, that was a great pickup.
I picked Mike Evans. I think that Odell Beckham Jr. and Mike Evans had very comparable years. I think that Odell Beckham Jr. just caught fire at a different time. If you look at the middle of the season, Mike Evans had a 4-game stretch where he had like 6 or 7 touchdowns. He played unbelievably. And also you have to factor in that Eli Manning, while pretty incompetent, throws a lot of picks, can win some games and is a decent quarterback. Mike Evans, it was Mike Glennon and Josh McCown. I mean, he had horrible team all around him. So, and he's just big, he's fast, 6'5", I think he's excellent.
Yeah, Mike Evans I might rather have on an actual football team because I do think that Eli Manning's a better quarterback than whatever's going on in Tampa Bay. But I'm going with Odell Beckham Jr. He missed the first 4 games of the season, and he came in 5th overall in wide receiver fantasy points. I mean, you can't argue much with that. I think he's a top 15 pick next year.
Yeah, definitely. And the only reason I didn't go with Evans, I obviously looked at his stats, was he was good in spurts, I thought. Like, he did have that stretch, but other than that, it was kind of sporadic. I thought Odell Beckham, after Week 7 was just double-digit points.
Right. All right. Comeback fantasy player who, fell off the scene for a bit. Who do you got?
I had Gronk.
You gotta go Gronk.
Yeah, you got to go with Gronk. He played 7 games last season, and he came back, played all except one that we didn't need him in, so it was a smart decision by Belichick, obviously, to sit him. He had 12 touchdowns, over 1,100 yards. I mean, just putting up unbelievable numbers. He would be my pick for the NFL MVP. I think he completely changes what the Patriots do.
Okay.
I went with Gronk too. He's the top fantasy tight end. He had 178 total points, and that's at a position where tight ends are hard to come by, a good tight end. The next person was Jimmy Graham, and he was well below Gronk's total points, and he was a good red zone target for Tom Brady. He's at least a touchdown a game, and it's just unbelievable what he did considering the amount of surgeries he had last season. Yeah,
it was impressive from Gronk. I mean, you can't argue with that, but I'm not going with Gronk. I'm going with the guy who's been in the NFL. He's 29 years old, been in the NFL since 2008, got his shot this year, and that's Justin Forsett. Justin Forsett's on the Baltimore Ravens, started the season, I don't even know if he was on the team week 1, but the depth chart was Ray Rice, Bernard Pierce, Lorenzo Taliaferro, Justin Forsett. he worked his way up that depth chart. I mean, granted, there was a little help by, with video, but Justin Forsett worked his way up that depth chart and came onto the scene, finishing the year with the 8th most fantasy points for running backs. And I mean, for an undrafted guy, that's really impressive. So I'm going with Justin Forsett for my comeback player of the year. Next, we have our fantasy bust, the player who busted in the sense that they did not do nearly what they were expected to do. Maybe it's a first rounder who finished undrafted. Maybe it's a third rounder who finished undrafted. But your fantasy bust for this year, John.
I'm going with Cordell Patterson. I picked him around the 6th round, I think, but coming into the season, there was a lot of hype around this guy.
Yeah.
Multi-dimension, can do everything. He's going to put up big numbers, and he put up 18 points week 1, and I did pick him, and I was thinking, all right, this is pretty good. They were rush yards, and they had some quarterback issues, but I was like, they got to score somewhere.
Yeah.
He just, after that,
I mean, that's a great pick, yeah.
He had 7 points was his next high after that.
All they talked about in Minnesota was just getting the ball to Cordell Patterson. It just didn't happen. Jack, who do you have?
My bust was Zach Stacy. He was a top 10 back.
Yeah.
I was a little weary. Maybe he won't be as good, but he went no later than the 2nd round in any draft, I don't think. And it was like week 2, and he was already done. He got taken over by Trey Mason, who granted played excellent, but I mean, Zach Stacy was just horrible.
Yeah, I actually stayed away, all costs, stayed away from Zach Stacy. He was available in the 3rd round. I didn't go with him. So he went in the late 3rd round of my draft. But yeah, Zach Stacy's a good pick. I went with not Adrian Peterson, who went top 3 because he didn't suck when he was on the field. I'm going with Doug Martin, who went top 10, top 15 in most weeks. He went 7th overall in my league. He missed 5 weeks, but he finished the season outside of the top 50 in running backs. I really think that's just a poor performance from a guy who scored, the 6th most fantasy points ever in a game 2 years ago. I think it was pretty pathetic from Doug Martin. All right. Our last category is the fantasy football MVP, the player who played the best, player who was maybe the most lucrative from where you drafted them, the best player in fantasy football. Who do you have, Jack?
I had Le'Veon Bell. He was on my team. He was an absolute powerhouse. I had him and Matt Forte. Together, they were probably the best running back tandem in my league.
Yeah.
I got him in the 3rd round. I liked him last year. He didn't do much.
Yep.
I got him in the 3rd round late, and he was just unbelievable. I mean, I'm pretty sure he beat out Forte. He was one of the top 3, I think.
I mean, props to anybody who picked Le'Veon Bell. I was very, very wary picking him because I drafted Trent Richardson last year. Similar play styles. Richardson didn't work out, so I didn't go with Le'Veon Bell. John, who do you have?
I have Aaron Rodgers. I know
Okay.
he kind of bottomed out in the last game of the season, but you could consistently count on him. He had 341 total points, most total points in standard standard ESPN standard leagues.
Yep.
And count on him weekly, double digits every week, average 21 points a week. Can't go wrong with that.
All right, those are both great picks. I'm going with Antonio Brown, my man from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He went in the 4th round, that vicinity in most drafts. He finished as the leading wide receiver, fantasy points-wise. But going back and looking at the stats, the last time a wide receiver not named Randy Moss or Calvin Johnson scored more total fantasy points than Antonio Brown was in 1995 when Jerry Rice did it. So I'll give Antonio Brown some credit here. He had an unprecedented year fantasy-wise. I think he's going top 12 next year. Top 12 overall pick. I mean, but also, as looking back into some receiver stats, in 2010, the fantasy points leaders for receivers, want to take a guess? 2010, who they might have been?
Fantasy points.
1 and 2?
Was Moss?
No.
I don't even know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Brandon Lloyd and Dwayne Bowe.
I would not have guessed that.
Yeah. All right, so that'll do it for our fantasy segment. I believe that's all the time we have, guys. So I think we're going to wrap it up for this. Jack, we appreciate you coming
Thanks,
on.
guys.
Yeah,
I had
great
a great
job.
time.
Thanks for coming
Thanks,
on.
guys. Thanks.
All
Good
right,
seeing you.
so for Jack, for John, for our director, Phil M. Arcaro, and for Mike Duvall, thanks for watching The Sports Mandate. We'll see you next time.